Thank you for listening to the Culture of Splife podcast. Follow us on all of our social media at Culture of Splife. We typically like to record this podcast on Mondays at 8:30 p.m. Central Time on TikTok. But if there is a scheduling change, we will post that on all of our social media. So follow us at Culture of Splife.
Jimmy G is no longer a backup, perhaps.
No, he is not a backup at all whatsoever. I don't think. I don't know. Who is the backup on the Raiders team now?
Marcus Tuiasosopo. No, I'm just kidding. I have no idea.
You convinced me. I bought it. I was like, who is that guy? Tell me more about him, Josh.
Oh, no.
I just want to
say I know. You know who it is.
Who is it?
Stidham.
Oh, my gosh. I do know who it is because he almost beat us. Yeah. As funny as it is to say, the 49ers almost lost to the Raiders because of Jarrett Stidham.
Yep.
That would have been a big loss at the end of the season.
Yeah.
We ended up going into overtime and, just the stars aligned, right, for the overtime. It just landed perfect in our laps. But yeah, that is true. I was listening to Colin Cowherd today talk about the Jimmy G trade, and he's pretty pumped about him with that offensive scheme. I don't know. I mean, you got weapons, right? I mean, do they have a decent running back?
Well, Josh Jacobs. They tagged Josh Jacobs.
Okay,
so
they're keeping him.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, they decided not to exercise the option going into last season, and then he proceeded to lead the NFL in rushing.
Right.
So they tagged him. Then, of course, they have Waller at tight end. Hunter Renfrow, on one side, and Devontae Adams on the other.
Right.
So not awful. And then they've got a slot. No, Hunter's the slot guy. They've got another guy who did well 2 years ago, and then he didn't really do well last year.
Yeah.
So
I know who you're talking about. I saw the stats on him, but I can't remember who it is.
Yeah.
So
Renfro's a great possession receiver. Devontae Adams is always open. And if Waller has a couple more good years in him, it's only a 2-year contract for Garoppolo. So it's definitely a prove it contract type thing. So we'll see what happens. And then I guess Darnold went to your team, right?
Yeah, good old Sam Darnold showing up for the 49ers there. Nothing like signing a contract to know that you're going to be the third string quarterback, right?
Yeah.
But whatever, we had to have somebody at that position, and honestly, like, you sign up to be the third string quarterback, you're like, I'm not getting any playing time, but you never know.
Right.
We used 4 last year.
That's right.
So
I saw Mike White sign with the Dolphins. Did you see that?
I have not seen that one.
2 years, $16 million.
Very nice.
To go from undrafted, third, fourth string to starter with the JETS to now being the backup for $8 million a year to hold a clipboard. It's not a bad gig if you can get it.
So I have a prediction.
He'll be the starter
of the Jets. I think tomorrow is going to be the day that it gets announced. Aaron Rodgers is going to the Jets.
Think so?
I am 100% positive he's going there. Based on everything that I've read, that's coming in live on Twitter. As you know, tomorrow is Tuesday. And if you don't know this about Tuesday is Aaron Rodgers Tuesday, right? On the Pat McAfee show. So maybe it's announced there. I don't know if that's the big thing, but everybody's saying the deal's done.
Okay.
Yeah, so we'll see.
I saw on like First Take or something today, Brandon Marshall interviewing him, and he was being very coy with his responses.
Right.
Everything has to have a deadline. You'll find out soon, things like that. But the talking heads, who is that? Max and oh man, I can see all the guys.
Right.
Graziano, all these NFL guys, they were like, I really think if he were going there, the deal would already be done because the Packers don't want him. So his choices are to retire or to go to the Jets because pretty much all the other spots are filled now, especially with Jimmy G going to the Raiders.
A name did pop up early, or rather, excuse me, not early, late last week. Another name did pop up. And I don't want to give away the segment too much before Rod gets here because I know he's dying to talk about it. But, Carolina actually put their name into the hat that they were interested in Rodgers. So, to me...
Instead, they gave their whole team away for the first pick in the draft.
If he went there, that would be an interesting, what do you do with that first pick now? What kind of needs do you fill? Although I think that they're going to try to get Cam Newton again. That's who they're drafting is another Cam Newton is their hopes. Got bad news for them. Those number one picks for a quarterback that succeed are only once in a lifetime. You don't get to do it twice this close together, right?
Yeah,
so
for sure. That's right. So who do you think they'll take? Stroud?
I don't know. Just being completely honest, I would not have traded up for a quarterback this season.
Right.
I think you're 50-50 on anybody, whether they're going to be good, whether they're going to be bad. Because, obviously Bryce Young is a good pick, but is it a good pick in the NFL?
I don't know.
Because he's tiny.
I don't know. I know. A guy who's 5'8", 5'9", maybe. I know they say 5'10", but
right.
I should have sent you the picture. I think it was a fake picture. I think I told you about how he was walking in to the combine with a tight end that was 5'10", and he towered Bryce Young. But I tried to show it to day one this weekend, and I couldn't find the picture anymore. It was like a 404 error type situation. So
right.
I think I should have checked Snopes before I started talking about it, I guess.
Right, but even still, he's not big, but, Drew Brees wasn't a big dude either. And he had an impressive career, so I can't go by that. That's the thing about the draft, you go by, like your wide receiver, okay, is he fast? Does he have huge hands? Is he tall? Okay, yeah, he's going to be a great wide receiver. But think about how many good wide receivers have been out there that on paper were just kind of,
Right.
Because I would venture to say in this world that we live in today, Jerry Rice would be a receiver.
Yeah.
Because he was a receiver then.
Right.
He was not impressive out of the combine.
Yeah.
Or whatever they called it. I don't think they called it the combine back then.
Right. I just saw Larry found us.
Absolutely.
What's up, Larry? Thanks for coming over to Facebook with us.
The college success quarterback is an interesting tell, right? Just because you have success in college doesn't make you an NFL player. Tim Tebow, right? As much as I love to talk about how great Tim Tebow was for the Broncos that one season, man, his numbers are atrocious. Even for that season, They were horrible. Yeah,
he knocked my Steelers out of the playoffs in overtime with an 80-yard touchdown pass to Demaryius Thomas. It was actually a 3 or 5 yard pass, but it went for 80 for a touchdown.
Right. But, that's Manziel. Good Lord. Yeah. I knew that was going to be bad, though. I said it myself that Manziel was going to be bad because I remember the moment that I actually spoke it into fruition. I was actually, Josh and I used to work together. I was in a training class where we used to work at, and I said, Manziel's not an NFL caliber player. I'm like, because if you look at Manziel on paper and you look at me on paper, we're the same dude. Like if you describe us on paper, we're the same guy, and there is absolutely no way I would make it in the NFL. I'm getting destroyed. I'm getting lit up. Some fat dude's sitting on my head, and I'm dying. That's what's going to happen. And somebody had the audacity to say, well, doesn't he have muscles in places you don't have muscles? And I'm like, it's not that easy, right? It's not. You can't. I've got my own built-in quarterback jacket. I get it, right? I'm carrying a little weight in the middle, but still, like, you know, that should make him even more scary to put out there, because that means he's skinnier than I am, because muscle does in fact you know, it is smaller than fat equivalent. So
Larry, I like your comment there, man. I remember going to the Sugar Bowl, Auburn against Oklahoma, and we had this quarterback named Sean White, and he never did anything at Auburn but get hurt a lot. And I remember we played really well in the first quarter. Correct me if I'm wrong, Drew. But then we got blown out in the second half. And I remember going back to my hotel and watching videos of Jared Stidham at Baylor and being like, this is going to be our guy next year. And yeah, he just never amounted to, oh, Jeremy Johnson too. Yeah, that's right. No doubt. Heisman, right? Jeremy Johnson for Heisman. So the bottom line is a lot of quarterbacks came through Auburn after Nick Marshall and were not successful. And, you know, they say that Gus Malzahn can't do anything with a quarterback unless he can run. And Jeremy Johnson couldn't really run. Sean White should have been able to run, but he was too small. He always got hurt. And then, of course, Jared Stidham could run with a piano on his back. That's what he looked like. But he did have that one good game. His last game, I think we beat one of the Big Ten teams like 60-10 or something. It was like an Outback Bowl or one of those. I'd have to look it up exactly.
Yeah, I think it was Northwestern, wasn't it, in the Outback Bowl? Maybe that was. Gosh, that might have been back in Gene Chizik. Or not Gene Chizik. Yeah, Gene Chizik. Yeah, he was before. Maybe that's who I'm thinking of.
It may have been it wasn't Iowa.
Yeah.
Man, that's gonna bother me. Maybe it was Purdue?
Could have been.
Yeah. Maybe it was Purdue in the Nashville Bowl. What's that one called? Music City. Maybe that's what it was. Yeah. So yeah, who knows? I mean, these guys, you think they're going to be so good just because they're good in college, and a lot of times they've already hit their ceiling.
Well, you brought up, you know, or Larry brought up Jeremy Johnson. Jeremy Johnson was an interesting one because we got to see the other phase, right? We saw him play in high school because the three of us, you know, including Larry, are all from Alabama, right? And so we heard all about him coming to Auburn. You know, the day that he signed, the size that he had. I mean, it was just fantastic, right? We were all excited. You know, Mr. Football, right? Gonna be at Auburn, and that turned out bad. I feel like though, when you have guys that can tear up the field like you can in college football, like, you know, Big 12, SEC, all of that stuff, and that's exactly where I'm going. You get pressured, you can't keep your composure, you get nervous, you start seeing ghosts out there, and you make horrible decisions. It's like me playing against my son in Madden, right? He's going to beat me that first quarter, but the fact that he knows he's playing his dad, it gets in his head a little bit, and then he loses his composure, and I'm wiping the floor with him by the end of the fourth, right? Because it's just in his head.
Right.
Again, we start out every game like that now, and I'm thinking, holy crap, this is the day I lose. This is the day I lose to my son. This is the day I lose to my son. And, you know, he gets in his own head. He starts, you know, he throws a couple of interceptions, you know, because he's not watching the field. He's just pressing the buttons. And that's what Jeremy Johnson was doing, except for he's actually throwing the football and not playing a video game with his dad.
Right.
And you know, I think that a lot of guys do that once they get to the other level up, right? Because, you know, again, you go to college, SEC, you know, even down to the Conference USA level, you got a guy that can run, you know, these defensive dudes that are running the ball, you know, sub 640s. Once you get to the NFL, everybody on your defense is running a sub 540. That's not a lot of time. That's not a lot of time. That's the day I lose my dignity. Is the day my son beats me in Madden. I don't know. I'm coaching him up really well. I want him to beat me. He's got a lot more time to dedicate to it. So So I'm hoping.
And I know we need to get off this this Auburn talk here, but do y'all remember the game when I think I think our quarterback was suspended and Jeremy Johnson played against Arkansas and he completely destroyed them.
Right.
And that's kind of where I was thinking, oh, this guy's going to be great. And then once he got the starting job on the cover of Sporting News, Heisman candidate, and then he goes to the Georgia Dome and barely gets out of Louisville or out of that Louisville game with a victory. And then it was all downhill from there.
But, okay, so looking at that game against Louisville, though, like, look at who their quarterback was.
Lamar Jackson?
Yeah, like yeah. It's ridiculous to think that, like, oh, yeah, Jeremy Johnson is going to beat Lamar Jackson, right? Like, that's going to be a thing. But it happened. Yeah. It really did happen. But Lamar Jackson got benched that game, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that Louisville game, they were still doing two different quarterbacks. I can't remember if Lamar Jackson hadn't won the starting job fully and they benched their starter for him, or if it was vice versa. But they played two quarterbacks that game, so it wasn't fully Lamar Jackson. But even still, I'm trying to think who the other quarterback would have been. It was probably some other stud. They had like three quarterbacks in a row that were just phenomenal. Because they had Teddy Bridgewater. Then they had Lamar Jackson, and again, I can't remember who was between the two there.
I can't remember.
Transition to this, what is Saban waiting for to retire?
Oh, day one's gonna have something to say about that.
Yeah, yeah. Go ahead and take that question for us, Eric. What's Saban waiting on to retire? I think that that Saban will retire whenever Alabama wants him to retire is the answer to that question. Truly, I don't think that Saban is going anywhere anytime soon.
Well, he just signed like an 8-year extension, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean, but he does that every year, right?
Yeah.
So, like, I don't know that that's any indication because he'll be like 900 years old by the end of that contract, I think. But you know, he used to say I'm going to retire now, but now he's like, I'm going to be bored if I retire. You know, I'm not going to retire. So I don't think that Nick Saban's going to retire. And used to, the rumor was that Dabo was the apparent heir or heir apparent, but I don't think that's the case anymore.
No, I don't think so. I mean, Dabo would be foolish to leave Clemson at this point.
I think I know who takes over for Saban, and it's going to upset a lot of Alabama fans. But I think I know who takes over for Saban.
Really?
Yeah.
What do you think?
I think it's Lane Kiffin. That's going to be who takes over for Saban.
Mm.
Yeah, exactly. You cringed when I said
it. Right.
See, Larry.
They can have him. Yeah, that's what Larry said. Yep.
Either that or they're going to have to go, you know, outside of the SEC to get somebody, right. Which they can do. You know, the Big Ten has coaches there. The Big 12 has coaches there. Although they're all coming into the SEC.
Right.
So we'll see where that goes. The Big Ten is going to be huge. They're adding more people, aren't they?
I don't know.
I thought wasn't there word that that some of the California teams were coming to the Big Ten?
I don't know.
They were leaving the Pac-12.
I don't know. I just know about the Big 12 coming to the SEC. That starts in what, 24, I guess?
Yes.
Oklahoma and Texas. Yep.
That's going to be my favorite. I love it. I love the idea of the SEC expanding and having more teams come in from the West that we'll have to ultimately put in the East for no stupid reason at all whatsoever. Looking at you, Missouri.
Right. No doubt. Missouri is east of California, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the oh my, yes, no doubt.
Oh no, we don't need to get rid of Vanderbilt. They're making us all look good from
That's right.
From the ACT score perspective. We got to get them in to bolster up the academics.
Although, didn't they beat us in recruiting last year?
They did, and also they had a good run in the basketball tournament this past week.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, how about we do a little Uncle Joe's and then move into the tournament talk. So there's a lot of that to do. Drew, you have a second one?
A second question?
Yeah.
Absolutely. I got a second question.
All right, very, very good. So the first question of the day, and before I go too far, just know that if you answer this question correct in the chat, if you're the first one to answer, you will receive a $25 gift card from Mark Acuff at Birmingham Mortgage. So, but as I say every week, this is Uncle Joe's trivia. Uncle Joe's not a cheater. Don't cheat. If you don't know the answer, don't put it in there. You know, we have listeners that have been honest 100%. Not a single person has gotten any of my trivia questions right the entire 12 shows we've had. 13 shows that we've had. So the first question for tonight is, we all know that North Carolina didn't make the tournament, right? And subsequently didn't accept the NIT offer, which I thought was pretty funny. But North Carolina is the first team to be the preseason #1 ranked team in the country to not make the tournament since this other team. So let me say that again. That kind of sounded weird. There is one other team to start out as the preseason #1 in the country and not make the tournament. Who was the last team to do it before North Carolina this year?
I like it. Although I do question why they did. Well, I know why they didn't accept the NIT bid deep down inside. I really do. I think they didn't want to be the first team to be preseason #1 and lose the NIT. That's what their fear probably was there. So it makes sense. And Cincinnati is not the correct answer.
They didn't want to be yet another story, right?
Right.
And then to lose in the first round of the NIT.
There's no way you lose in the NIT if you're preseason #1 and it looks good on you.
Right.
Because that means that you went from preseason #1 to below ranked 69th nationally effectively is what you just managed to do. That's what you did. So
exactly.
Yeah. All right. Let's look.
Larry's telling us who it's not. We appreciate you, Larry. You are correct. It is not Maryland.
Yep. Only like 250 more teams to go.
Oh man,
be here all night. Wait, do we count like you've got like those SWAC teams and everything else that can get in as well, you know, right? If they go undefeated and win their conference championships and stuff like that. So
that's right.
So it's probably over 250 teams.
Larry said, but I was correct.
You're not wrong. I'll give you that one.
Larry has found the loophole in our trivia. So what they were saying, though, is, you know, Carolina lost in quadruple overtime to Alabama.
Right.
If they win that game, they're a shoo-in for the tournament. So it's just amazing how one game, ultimately 1 point, determines whether or not you're eating bonbons at the house watching the tournament or participating in it.
You know, it's funny to me, and I've told this to Rod before, like, you know, there's no good way to do the tournament, right? You know, he's a big bracketologist and everything. I've told him, I'm like, you know, it's tough whenever you're looking at these teams to go like, you know, like for example, you got Oral Roberts that comes into the tournament as a 12 seed. You know, by my math, that puts them roughly 48th ranked in the nation, right? You know, if we try to do it that way. Mm-hmm. And you look at it and it's like, are they truly that though? Or is it because they just so happen to win their, you know, win their game, right? They won their conference championship. But then on the other hand, like, they're a pretty awesome team. Like, maybe next week I'm singing a different song saying, yeah, they should have been like a 4 seed, right? You know, like, I don't know where this is going to turn into. You know, it's an interesting round, you know, and it always is in the tournament, right? Because it just proves to you how little we actually know about what these are going to look like. Because I even saw how Houston was upset, right? We'll talk about that one in a second. Let's do our next trivia question. You ready?
Do it. Yes.
Should we tell people how this question was generated?
Sure.
We're using all the latest and greatest technology. You've heard of Chat GPT. Well, we have artificial intelligence creating trivia questions for our podcast now. And this trivia question was 100% artificial intelligence created. It's a product of Chat GPT, Josh, just to let you know. Yes. This was created by that buzzword.
Not created in China.
Yeah, right. Chat GPT is
for
not Chinese.
All of our fans that didn't follow us to TikTok, and now we're trying to get them back here on Facebook.
Yep. And who knows where we end up? We'll probably end up on YouTube, right? Because that's where everything ends up.
Right.
Okay, I've got to read over the question one more time. It's on this monitor over here. Sorry. All right, so here's the question. What is the name of the song that is often associated with March Madness?
Ooh.
And we'll hear it like 15 times in the next week or two.
Right.
You know, assuming we watch all the games.
Yes. I will definitely be watching them from the house. Did you look at the price of tickets to go to the BJCC?
No, I've not looked at the price of the tickets yet. You know, it's rare I get to go to the BJCC because everything's so expensive now to go to. But yeah, Houston is already looking around too.
Oh, ding, ding, ding. Eric is the winner. Gets to take home a gift card.
You got it, Eric. There you go.
Yes. Good job. Yeah, so I looked at tickets on, yesterday, I guess. And for Thursday, nosebleed seats in the end zone, we'll call it, right? Baseline tickets, $476 for one ticket.
That's rough.
Yes.
That is rough.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw the comments that that the Houston coach is making, but he's very upset that he could potentially face Auburn in round 2 with home court advantage. That's what he said. He said maybe we should have been an 8 or a 9 seed, so we wouldn't have had to have done this. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you're already getting in the heads of your own players.
Wow.
This isn't going to go well for my bracket because I wanted to give Auburn the benefit of the doubt and let them win one game. I'm not sure they're going to do that, but I wanted to give them the benefit of the doubt. And I had them going out against Houston in the second round, and now Houston's already in its own head. It's fantastic.
Yeah. And who knows if they'll have their star, Sasser, who got hurt in the semifinal.
Right.
And caused me to pick Memphis in the final. I wish I had been in Vegas. That would have been easy money.
It would have been.
Could have had Memphis +6. Yeah, I would have taken that all day long. But instead, I did it in my little fake gambling thing and won a bunch. So,
you know, you take what you can get, right?
Right.
And by the way, I'm just throwing this out here. Last week, we made some predictions, and mine's looking the best thus far.
Man, and I watched my pick, UCLA against Arizona, and Arizona is tough.
Yeah.
They're tough. I mean, UCLA should have tied it down the stretch, but they were down 1, I think. And I can't remember how it played out. It was a late game, but I watched it till the end, and of course started watching it late. But they've got an injury that's pretty significant. So if he doesn't come back, I think his last name's Lewis or something like that, then they may not make it as far. But they've got a pretty good bracket, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, they're not in a bad spot, but neither is Arizona.
Yeah.
Arizona could potentially win out over there. Because I think that let's see, they're the 2 seed right now, Alabama side. So I think Alabama, if they go by our predictions, will fizzle, right? And so Arizona can remain dominant and potentially win that side out into the Final Four. So that'll be good for my bracket anyway. It'll be great. But
yeah, I don't do a bracket. I'm going to watch enough games as it is. I don't need to have a bracket to feel like I have to watch every game, because that's what I'll do.
This year, we have all 5 members of my household with a bracket, all the way from me, my wife, down to my 5-year-old. And watching a 5-year-old pick teams is amazing because she can barely recognize letters, right? She's got that part down. Reading words is flat out. So she had an interesting Final Four. We're gonna say that Arizona's in her Final Four, which I don't think is a bad plan. I really don't think is a bad plan. But her name is Andy, and Arizona starts with an A, and their logo's that big A, and she's like, "Ooh, I like them." And she's actually got them going to the finals against UConn, which was Rod's pick,
right?
And they're facing each other, and UConn's winning that game. By the way, that's her champion. So her and Rod aligned on that, but she liked the UConn logo because she had a stuffed animal with her that was a dog. While she's making her picks, and she's like, "Oh, I'm picking that one because it's a dog," and it went all the way. She said her stuffed animal helped her pick her bracket. So I'm anxious. I hope she wins it out. Although I don't think Alabama is going to be going out against Texas A&M Corpus Christi, but that was her pick. So we'll see how that works out. Once the dust settles and it gets to the Final Four, I'm kind of like, okay, yeah, I can give you that one. But some of this other stuff in the middle, I'm not giving you.
I guess it's a good thing the Akron Zips didn't make it, because I think they have a big A too, right? So
oh yeah,
she could have the Akron Zips in the championship.
That would have been tough. That would have been tough. The funniest one to me was the Iowa logo almost tripped her up. She was like, "Oh, I like that one." No, that's Auburn. And so she went Auburn. and Auburn's going all the way to the Final Four, by the way.
Oh, okay.
But they get beat out by the dog, right? The dog picked UConn. So
right.
That was her scientific. I'm afraid she's going to have a perfect bracket. I'm afraid for 2 different reasons. One, because it would completely ruin mine. But another one is because we'll be on Good Morning America, and I'm going to be having to explain this process to the whole United States.
Right. It's crazy. This morning I was watching ESPN, and it showed that there had already been 5.6 million brackets filled out on ESPN.
Right.
That is insane. Wow.
Right. I'm in the Yahoo bracket, I believe.
Okay.
$25,000 on the line if I have the best bracket or whatever, which I want, but
yeah.
So I'm more likely to get struck by lightning while winning the lottery than having the best bracket.
That's why I always thought it was so funny how Warren Buffett said that he'd give $1 million to the person.
It was $1 billion.
Oh, $1 billion? Okay.
With a B, yeah.
With a B. Okay. Well, that's nothing compared to what you would win if Vegas would allow you to do it.
Right.
I mean, think about that parlay.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, even if you took the bracket and bet accordingly, I mean, you're still going to be making a ton of money in Vegas.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I mean, think about that. That's what, 48, 56, 62, 63 games, right?
Yeah.
Do that math right? Yeah. So if you do a 63 game parlay, that's going to pay out more than maybe not $1 billion. Maybe it wouldn't. I don't know. Vegas won't do it, I don't think. So I don't think it matters. But
no, they wouldn't. But yeah, like I said, even just betting and doubling your money 63 times. Like,
right. Yeah.
That would be insane, which I know most of those bets wouldn't be double. Truly, I don't think. I'm not the best person to ask about gambling because I don't. But yeah, that would be an insane amount. 63 win streak.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Definitely. Yeah, because I told you about the guy that won, I think it was $400,000 on a dollar bet UFC last week, the John Jones fight. Yeah. And it was only 6 things that he picked, and he won $400,000 on a dollar bet. So, yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I'm sure there's going to be some kind of Cinderella slipper out there that'll make it through to the Sweet 16, just like every year. Somebody's going to get knocked off, and I can't wait for Thursday to get here. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
It's gonna be whoever plays Gonzaga, right?
That's right.
That's who it'll be.
Adam Morrison crying on the court. Yeah,
definitely. My wife had them going to the Final Four, and she's like, "So is this bad? Like, how bad is my Final Four?" I'm like, honestly, like, it's not hers isn't a bad Final Four. I'm like, but you know, you've got them in it. Like, I can't. Like, yeah, they're a good team, and yeah, they're capable of freaking winning it all, right?
Right.
I have faith in them. They could do it if they wanted to. 4 seed, not unheard of at all to win the championship. But let's just face who it is. I'm sick of putting them in my Final Four and getting heartbroken when they lose out, you know, in the second round or the third round. So I'm just done. I'm done with them. I think I've got them going to the Sweet 16, maybe. Yeah. Can't really remember too many teams, but yeah, I'm still going Purdue's winning it all. Sticking to my guns.
Wow. I mean, that Edey kid, I watched a lot of him this weekend. He's a stud. But I don't know, man. You got to be able to hit the 3 ball a whole lot in the tournament. And I don't see them having the shooters to be able to get it done. I mean, think of how Auburn ran through in 2019 with shooters.
Right.
Jared Harper, Bryce Brown, shooting it from way downtown.
I agree.
That song?
I agree. But they didn't lose, so.
Man, did you see the end of the Penn State game, though?
No, I didn't.
It was crazy. So Purdue was up 17 with like 6.5 minutes to go against Penn State yesterday. And Penn State got it all the way down to 2 points. Penn State inbounded the ball. It was a perfectly designed play. Guy runs behind almost like the kid for Villanova. Remember against North Carolina, kind of shoveled it back to him, and he shuffled his feet. So then there were 0.6 of a second left. All they had to do was throw it to Edey. He just like hit it with his hand before anybody could jump up to touch it, and the game was over. But that's how close it was. Penn State's a pretty good team. So we'll see what they do in the tournament. But, I mean, if you can get it down to the big man, I mean, he's a stud.
Yeah.
He is the most patient big man I've ever seen play in college basketball. I mean, he gets it. There'll be people around him swatting at him. Nothing changes what he's going to do. He either goes a little left-handed jump hook.
It'd be interesting to see somebody with that much discipline playing in the NBA, right? Yeah. Like you could.
I'm afraid he'll be too slow to be in the NBA, I think. I don't know. We'll see how that ages. But if you remember George Mirasan, the 7'6" guy with the Washington Wizards.
Yeah.
He was so big, and he did okay for a little while, but then he just couldn't. I think injuries really mounted because he was so big, but he was slow, and so we'll see. We'll see what he does. Oh, wow. I know who you're talking about, who was talking trash to Zion. I remember seeing that video. I couldn't see the end of what Larry said. Could you see that?
Yeah, he said he'd be playing next year.
Playing next year in where? Oh, I guess if Zion was only there a year, I guess he could be potentially playing in college next year, right?
Right.
be a freshman. Yeah, that was funny. So I saw Rod just got home. Wonder if he's going to be able to get on, because we got to have the resident bracketologist before the tournament. You know?
Absolutely. And we're trying to actually adhere to a time, aren't we? This go round.
We're trying. We'll see. I think we only have 2 people listening, so
try to adhere to something one day.
Yeah.
May not be today, may not be tomorrow, but I'm refreshing, seeing if we can get them in there. Oops, I actually accidentally brightened my video there. I love it. The video effects that you get either on TikTok or you know, just via the natural lighting that I have. I've got to watch out. I accidentally set my lighting the other day on a mode. I can, for those that are actually watching a video, I can probably pull it up here to this mode right here. It's a natural light mode. You know, people have critiqued me for having the backdrop and everything like that, so I decided to go more of a natural light kind of mode, and I got made fun of for being yellow. That's what happened. It was just like in comments. That's all. Like, hey, you need to get your liver checked out. And I'm like, gee, thanks guys. I appreciate that. Thanks for watching out. They said I look too yellow.
There he is.
What up?
There he is. This is like a true bracketologist moment for you. You know, you just like hang out, enjoy yourself. We do the show, and then we bring the bracketologist in to just kill it for the rest
Making
of the
the
show.
cameo.
That's it.
Right.
Absolutely. The resident Joe Lenardi, although maybe a little bit better than Joe Lenardi this year.
I've been consistently better than Joe Lenardi the whole time. Now I will say this about him: he stepped up and did a lot better than usual this year.
So I texted you, Rod, last night that Joe was correct on 54 of 68 seeds.
Mm-hmm.
And tell me again what your result was.
66 out of 68 seeds were either seeded correctly or within 1 seed. So
wow,
as usual.
That is insane. Wow,
That's ridiculous. What I would like to do, Josh, is me and you should take out the paper right now. We should draw up the bracket, okay? And me and you, knowing what seeds people are, try to get 68 right.
right.
Between both of us. We
No
can
way.
only use each other to help.
No.
And I don't think we would even get close. We can use, how about this? We can use each other and standings. The standings, and see how close we get.
Yes.
You know, it's just
the 4 number ones right. Maybe.
Kansas, Alabama, Purdue,
mm-hmm.
Houston.
Houston, yes.
Yeah.
Which I think with Sasser out, Houston's overrated. But
I mean, even with him, I think they were slightly overrated simply because, I mean, everybody just, you know, is just, you know, ooh and on over like the athleticism and how well they play defense. But if you look at a lot of games, even the game that Alabama beat them in, they have that tendency to, well, they've gone 7 minutes without a field goal. You do that in the tournament against a good team, you're going home. And so that's,
sure.
at some point that's going to happen to them. And I just think it's a travesty that you have Lenardi, and then of course you have Jerry Palm on CBS, and every time you see basketball, you see him come up, well, according to Lenardi, right now the Texas A&M's a 4 seed, you know, and it's like we're saying it's like it's gospel. This guy historically is terrible at seeds. He's a little bit better than he usually is, but it's like people watch ESPN and they're like, well, I know what the selection committee is going to do just because I've had this guy for years say what the seeds are, so we're going to go by that.
Well, yeah, and you know, it's a little bit of that is also kind of for show, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because like even you have told me like, okay, this team is here. They're here in the bracket,
Mm-hmm.
but they're not that seed.
Correct.
They're not for real that seed. And so even like you have to force your hand a little bit because you know what the selection committee is going to do when it's not based on reality.
And here's the thing. like I missed 2 teams that weren't in the tournament. And beforehand, I was talking about it all weekend. I said, you know what? I'm going to go in as if I'm a member of the selection committee and what I would do as opposed to what I'm trying to think for them or trying to think what they would do. And so that's a balancing act. And so at some point I'm saying, okay, if you're going to use this criteria, then I'm going to go through that criteria. Kind of like NC State, you say it's about who you beat. Well, they went 1-6 against their quad ones. So a 1-6 team, so you lost 6 out of 7. And then you got somebody like Oklahoma State that, they had 18 of them, but they won 6 of them. I mean, it's kind of one of those things where, and I literally heard the guy last night say, well, out of their 18, they only won 6 of them. That's not really a high percentage of quad 1 wins. Well, 33% still beats 14%. You literally lost almost every one of them.
Right.
Yeah. And so that's kind of the thing that you can run into, because everyone's like, who gets a perfect bracket? You can't get a perfect bracket simply because you can't get inside of the minds of 12 people that, that think differently to just get the outcome. So you try to come as accurate as possible based off of this is the criteria they have. But, it's just like with college football in the playoffs, that target about what you value out of all the things you list kind of moves from time to time. And so that's what you run into when you miss certain things. And so that was a good point, Drew. Yeah, you have to kind of just look at thinking the way it would be if you were on the committee to select it, as opposed to trying to think how everybody else would think.
So, to me, what team do you think was put on there at the lowest? Like, what team should have been ranked higher than what was actually?
Texas A&M was criminally underseeded at a 7. The SEC got tied for the most amount of teams. The SEC and the Big Ten, they all got 8 teams in there. So you're by default, you're saying that's the toughest conference that's tied for the toughest conference in basketball. So if I finish second in the toughest conference in the country, and I finish second in the tournament for the toughest conference in the country, I finished twice, number 2 in both of those, then how is it that I'm ranked like 28th in the country? You're telling me that I'm not one of the best 20 teams in the country, that if I can finish runner up in the regular season and the postseason in my conference, so that's one of them. Like I said, I don't think NC State had any business being in the tournament. I really don't think Nevada should have been in. So those are the 2, and I missed those 2, and I did it just based off of their criteria. I had Rutgers and Oklahoma State in. So, but yeah, Texas A&M way underseeded. I know a lot of people are on the Marquette bandwagon. I think they were overseeded as a number 2, though.
Oh yeah, for sure.
They were overseeded. I think Kansas State's overseeded as a 3.
Yeah, I saw that one, and I was looking at the statistics on Yahoo as to how far people get out. You got a lot of people that as we like to call it, use the Obama methodology, where the your Final Four is the number 1.
Yeah, just
right.
Chalk. Yeah, yeah. Chalk. Yes,
exactly. And so, like, you got to take into it to account the people that are going to make their brackets just based off of that. So naturally the higher seed's going to win. But it was funny to me, the deeper that you got into Kansas State's journey, like, they had to be one of the highest ranked upsets in the first round, especially among the 3 seeds. Because you're talking the other 3 seeds were picked like 2% of the time, and they were like, I think 10 or 12 or something like that.
Here's the funniest thing about, and that's the East bracket. Here's the craziest thing about that bracket. All right, so we talked about the 2 seed was Marquette. Marquette was picked to finish 9th preseason in the Big East. 9th.
I saw that.
Kansas State was picked to finish dead last preseason in the Big 12. Right? Wow. Tennessee is overseeded as a number 4 without with the point guard that tore his ACL.
Right.
Which have they even won a game since that happened?
No.
Okay, they beat Ole Miss, who was like the last place team in the SEC in a grinder. Okay, but since then you haven't even won. They're the 4th seed in the East, and Duke has their customary. We just returned from the dead where we're 8 or 9 seed, and we beat like 2 straight mediocre ACC teams, and now all of a sudden ESPN's back on the bandwagon, and now we're a 5, right?
Duke is in a trap game in the first round.
Oh, that's a guarantee. Oral Roberts is legit.
Yeah,
I've got them in the Sweet 16.
Oral
Roberts has the easiest draw to the Sweet 16 outside of a high seed, because all they got to do is beat Duke and then Tennessee.
Right.
So, you look at that bracket when you start breaking it down. Obviously somebody like Kentucky is like just completely, just been inconsistent. But it's like, you got Purdue obviously, but outside of the 7'4" guys, you even just think about it, like, who thought about the balance of that bracket?
They didn't have to, because they're putting me in my ultimate place. I told you guys, Purdue's winning it, and that's how they're winning it. It's because they don't have to play anybody.
Oh,
it's real easy.
And here's a stat for you guys that are listening to remember when you pick your bracket. I think within the last 25 years, there's never been a national champion that hasn't at least gotten to the semifinals of their conference championship.
Wow.
So if you're picking a bracket, you're picking a national champion, make sure they at least got to the semis of their conference tournament.
Purdue won their conference tournament.
Yeah.
They tried to lose it. Did you see it, Rod?
Yes. They almost blew a 13-point lead in the last minute.
17, yeah, 17-point lead with 6 minutes to go and almost blew it.
Doesn't matter. They don't have to face those teams anymore.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you, Rod, I watched the Duke-Virginia game, and has Jeremy Roach been out quite a bit?
He was on and out. He was in and out. I think the biggest change they made was they have him playing off the ball. Like, he was out with injury, but now he's playing as a 2 guard instead of a point guard.
Man, he's a difference maker. And that Flipowski kid,
he's gotten aggressive. He's upped his minutes as the season's gone on. And so, yeah, Duke could actually do something decent. They just got a team that's 30-4. That's a 12. Oral Roberts, who, if you recall, 2 years ago, Oral Roberts as a 15 made the Sweet 16.
Right.
They still have that team, and that guy Asmus that was like an amazing point guard for them. He's still there.
Oh, wow.
And just to follow up from my last chat about Oral Roberts, my son did enjoy the Oral Roberts University concert that he attended.
Yeah, I remember that.
Church.
That's right.
So I showed up. I almost sent a picture to you guys. I actually showed up and parked right by their van. They were like, the parking place by the door, and I got there a little early. And I'm like, oh, I should take a picture, send it to Rod and Josh. But it was raining that evening, so I just kind of rushed in. But yeah, that is a trap game for Duke, though. It is. It's horrible. And I'm going to enjoy every minute of it. But it builds a great story for Oral Roberts, because it makes them look like they're just knocking off a big team if they win it. So
yeah, they're going to the Sweet 16. I think they're going to beat Duke, and then they're going to come right back and they're going to beat Tennessee.
That's where I have them at too. It's Sweet 16.
Mm-hmm.
So who do they lose to in the Sweet 16?
Purdue.
Yeah, Purdue.
Okay.
I think it'll be Purdue's got a good shot in making it in the Final Four. I see them losing to Arizona in the Final Four. I think Purdue and Kentucky will be the Elite Eight, and Purdue just is a little bit more consistent to win that one. But then I don't think they'll beat Arizona.
That's where I'm down to as well. Is exact same matchups that you just said. Purdue beats Kentucky. Then Purdue, I had them winning against Arizona, which hearing Josh talk about Arizona before you got on kind of scares me a little bit because he was hyping him up, but yeah, I've still got him going.
I said mid-season that either Arizona or UConn would be the team that I would pick to win it.
My daughter picked UConn to win it.
I've always thought and been high on UConn. I think they'll lose to Gonzaga in the Elite Eight.
I think so. Yeah, I watched that Arizona UCLA.
Oh man, that was a good one, man.
Yeah, it was. Tiger missed the free throw to tie it. It's like he has the highest percentage in Pac-12, and he made the first one and missed the second.
Oh yeah, the 85%. That game had the feel of an Elite Eight type of game.
It did. But that Jacques guy that we were talking about,
yes,
he is special.
Yes.
When he wants to get to the
just makes plays.
What's that?
He just makes plays.
Oh yeah. Yep. I know we can't change, but I still feel good about UCLA, but they have an injury, right?
Yes.
They have a pretty significant injury.
Yeah, one of their top scorers is out for the year.
Yeah.
Clark is his name.
Clark. Okay. I knew it was a common name. I said Lewis earlier in the show, but Clark works too.
Oh, you can Lewis Clark Expedition. I can see.
There you go.
Going there. No,
I mean, if he's not out, I picked them to be in the Final Four.
Yeah.
You can change week over week. You did it in the playoffs. Yeah, you did. Watch the replay. We got it.
I picked the Chiefs against the Bungles, right?
Yeah.
I picked the Chiefs against the Eagles. We didn't do any picking other than that.
Oh, no, we did. We 100% did.
Never went against the Chiefs.
We're gonna have to check the replay on it. I'm just throwing that out there. You definitely did change your picks.
All right, we'll see. Because I was making such a big deal about how I took the Chiefs. And you're like, well, you had a 25% chance. I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm the only one that picked the Chiefs. That's all that.
Yeah, that was the Eric day one episode, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, but see, we started doing picks before that, though. That's the problem.
Oh, at the beginning of the playoffs?
Yeah.
You mean before the Chiefs played? Because they had a bye the first week.
So right, and we picked who was going to the Super Bowl.
When they're not playing, right?
We picked who was going to the Super Bowl. I'm telling you, you're gonna be embarrassed. I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, I mean we had some initial picks. I can't even remember who.
Oh, I probably picked the Bills, didn't I?
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, I picked the Bills. Well, I can't pick the Bills once the Bills are out, right?
Yeah.
So then I have to change.
But you changed anyway. You changed anyway because you had Bills 49ers, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, you had Bills and Niners, and
then you ended up Eagles and Chiefs by the end of it. So we changed week after week, guys. It just happens. We learn things. We get smarter as the days go on.
Because I think I picked like the Bengals and 49ers. It's like, we're going to relive the Montana to Taylor in the back of the end zone. That's right.
That's right. Yep.
Yep. We both. I think me and Rod were unified on our picks until the last week, if I'm not mistaken.
And then of course the conference championship games had to wreck that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. All around.
No doubt. So it is 10:05. We're only 5 minutes late. Do we want to go into our last segment, or do we just want to cut it off here?
Why don't you give some trivia answers?
All right.
Because Rod doesn't even know the trivia questions.
That's right.
No, I don't. It's great.
That's right. So the first trivia question for tonight, Rod, was, we know that North Carolina didn't make the tournament. Mm-hmm. And obviously we also know that they declined the NIT invitation because that ego is a little too big, I think. But as Drew said, they were worried that they would lose in the first round. So then they would really be talked about quite a bit more than what I'm about to say. So North Carolina got eliminated from wasn't able to make the tournament. And they are the first preseason #1 to do it since this team did it last. So there was a team that did it before North Carolina. Who was that team?
Oh.
To be the preseason number 1 and not make it to the dance.
What? Are you asking me?
Yeah.
That was the trivia question, man.
Oh, it was a trivia question. It was a team like in the early 70s. It was like maybe like 74 or something like that this happened. I can't remember the team's name, but I know the year.
Hey, Rod, don't give up. Don't ever give up.
Oh, NC State. There we go.
Yep, the 74-75 NC State Wolfpack did not make the dance after winning the championship. Yep. All right, Drew had the second question, but day 1 got it right. So I guess we don't even need to spend the time on that.
Uh-oh. What was that one?
It was this song is commonly associated with March Madness.
Oh.
What's the name of the song?
Oh, One Shiny Moment.
There you
go. That's it.
There you go. Which, by the way, that question was actually generated by AI.
Oh, here's the thing about who initially did the One Shiny Moment song. Because I know everybody now, when you hear it, it's Luther Vandross.
Right.
They did not change it to Luther Vandross until 2003.
Oh, wow.
It's in that same genre of singer, balladeer, if you will.
Yeah. I forget who it is.
But it was initially not Luther. He remastered the song in 2003. That was the same year that Syracuse and Carmelo Anthony won it. But It was somebody else that did it before him. It was Teddy Pendergrass.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy.
Go back and listen to, if you ever YouTube like any of the One Shining Moments before, like, in the 90s, you'll hear it. It's Teddy. And then, of course, after 2003, you certainly know it's Luther.
And when did Luther pass? Could have been too much after that.
He literally passed less than a year after that. Wow. I mean, it was like months after the song.
Wow.
You know what's amazing about the tournament though? Like, you've got the build up, right? The whole thing, it's a big to do. We've talked about like flipping a coin, like, and it landing on heads, 16 times to get you through your conference championship game and the tournament itself. How many times can you win in a row? But here's the fun fact about the tournament. There's never been a tournament that ended without a winner, right? Like somebody's gonna win it. like we act like, all these teams go out there and only one team's gonna have this moment that half of America probably picked, or at least a quarter of America picked, right? Like, because we're going to get to the point where it's like, Josh, you had a 25% chance. It's not that impressive that you picked this team, right? Like, we're going to get to that point, and we act like it's just this magical thing, this one shining moment, right?
Yeah. Well, and it's because it's fairy tale-ish, because you always have this Cinderella team or set of Cinderella teams that nobody expects to do anything, and it's like a true Disney movie story where they win a couple of games and all of a sudden everybody knows their names. They're the darlings of society at that particular point. And what's ironic is, college basketball is probably the easiest place to get upsets on a significant level.
Oh, right? Yeah.
It's a lot harder to do it in football, whether it's, college football, NFL, NBA. It's hard to do that. Because you've got a series, you've got professionals, but in college, it's just, you just have to be better on that day, right?
Right.
But we say all that, but then the championships always come down to blue bloods. Always. Either it's a blue blood or it's a team that was favored that year. Because I'll never forget, somebody said to me, well, you can't say it's blue bloods the year it was Baylor against Gonzaga. Well, Baylor and Gonzaga were number 1 and 2 all year. Gonzaga didn't lose a game. Baylor only lost 2. So those were the 2 best teams. There was no upset. There was no Cinderella there.
Right.
you know, it's funny that you say that, though, you know, because again, you're right. You can have an upset at any point in time, right? Kentucky's going to lose. You know, it's just it happens. Yep. But like, what I think people fail to realize is that the skill of basketball is so much more mental than any other sport that's competitive like this. I mean, outside of like a one-on-one sport, like maybe like a tennis or something like that. Because like I remember, oh God, who was the UCLA coach? Wooden.
Yeah.
John Wooden. Yeah. Like he was, you know, he was amazing. He's done stuff that nobody else will ever do. Right? It was impossible. And I don't know if you guys have ever read the book or listened to the audio interviews of Tony Robbins interviewing this guy. And like the stuff that he talked about, it was so elementary, so juvenile stuff, but it's stuff that whenever you pay that, you know, $10,000 to go have one-on-one coaching with Tony Robbins, it's the stuff that he tells you. It's all about up here.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with anything at all basketball related. It's all up here.
Yep.
He didn't go out there and talk about how, you know, he revolutionized the game by doing a full court press between these minutes and then doing mass substitutions and all this stuff. No, it was all mental preparedness.
Yep.
Straight out of the gate.
Yeah, I mean, they've even just said, I mean, it's doing common things uncommonly well.
Right. Right. Yep. And it's literally, you know, waking up in the morning, practicing more than everybody else practices, you know? Like
that's all Nick Saban ever says he's done.
Right. The Mamba mentality, if you will. That's all it is.
Oh,
yep. That was
man.
book.
Speaking of the Mamba mentality, I just read a story today that Julius Randle told about Kobe Bryant. In Kobe's, I guess Julius's last year there, or first year there, which was also Kobe's last year, 2015. And they flew into Dallas to play the Mavericks. And this is Julius's hometown. And Kobe said, "So Julius, what are you going to do?" And he's like, "Oh, you know, I'm going to chill with the family." And he was like, "No, you're not. We're going to the gym." And he was like, at that moment, I realized that you can never take a day off. And he said, the things that I learned on that day, I still do to this day. And he said that they were playing the Pistons. I don't know if it was the Knicks. I'm guessing it was the Knicks that were playing the Pistons. And there's a Detroit high school where basketball players are let in to shoot around. And the athletic director let Julius in. And he said, "You're the first player to come in here since Kobe Bryant." And he was like, wow. That's that Mamba mentality that Drew speaks of right there.
I mean, completely. My daughter's basketball trainer, he's originally from Missouri, and he used to clean up and help out in the gym. And this gym he would always, the guy that was over the gym just said, "Hey, leave the gym open." This was over the, around Christmas time. He's like, "Leave it open." Yeah, we're going to, girl will be in here later on. You know, we leave it open. She has to get in here every day. And so he would just leave it open. This girl would come in and put up shots for hours. You know, like, I mean, like we're talking about like Christmas Eve, day after Christmas, all this type of stuff, you know, and it was, you know, this girl is like a high school girl, right? And so, you know, he was just like, this is just amazing. Like, you know, I love her dedication. And then he asked, "Who is this girl that keeps coming here?" And he goes, "Oh man, she's dedicated to this here." He said, "Yeah, her name's Maya Moore."
Whoa.
Like when she was in high school, they left the gym open for her during the holidays because that's where she was going to be as a high school student.
Yep.
That's
probably has her jersey in the rafters, I imagine, at UConn, right?
If not, it will be.
Yeah, exactly. No doubt. Another Mamba story I heard. Have y'all seen the Redeem Team?
Yes.
Netflix special?
Yes, that was great.
Oh, yeah. So this was right after Kobe had the issue in Colorado. So he was like the most hated man in sports, probably. You know, lost a bunch of endorsements, and he ended up, I guess the Redeem team got together and they were missing one key element, and that was Kobe. So I can't remember, was Krzyzewski that called Kobe and invited him in, and he got there, and at first it was just kind of weird that he was there, and then one day everybody was coming up to the room at like 4 o'clock in the morning after being out partying all night, and Kobe was in his gym clothes going down to work out in the gym. And from that moment on, those guys did the same thing Kobe did. Up at 5 o'clock working out, no more partying, and then of course we saw what the end result was on the basketball court. Yeah.
Wasn't he the one that was like, you know, if you get up at 4 o'clock, you can be at the gym at like by 5 or whatever, and you can practice for 2 hours, take a break, eat breakfast, then go out and practice for 2 more hours, take a break, eat lunch, you know, and like had the day planned out. He's like, but if you sleep till 7, you've missed 1 2-hour practice, and there's people out there that only practice for 2 hours a day, so you missed a whole day of practice because you slept in. And it's like, what?
that was right. And he would get in a practice right before the team showed up, play the game, and he would get in a practice right after the team left.
Wow. It's very similar to Tiger, you know, at his height. He would go out and dominate on the course, and then he'd be hitting balls in the dark in the driving range. You know, just couldn't practice enough. Unbelievable.
Whatever it takes. I wish that I liked something that much. Like anything at all. Like that I would be dedicated for. Because, I mean, you know, I like to go to the gym, right? I like to work out, pump some iron, but like I'm not about to do that like 3 times a day. You'll die. Like, you can't do that, you know?
Yeah,
I'm almost 40.
My daughter read that book literally at the beginning of the pandemic 3 years ago.
Probably
Mama mentality.
like drum crazy. She was probably stir crazy then. Like, I got to do this. I'm losing all this time, right?
So.
Yeah. All right. Well, y'all want to call it 10:18? We didn't get on till 9:05, so we're only like 14 minutes late, I guess, but
this works.
Yes. Well, if you're hearing me speak, you obviously found us again. We're back on Facebook Live, at least for this week. We will continue to notify you on Facebook where we're going to be, and then obviously in the other places we'll let you know as well. But you know where you can find us: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, TikTok, for different segments of the show. We're going to continue to do that, and you know, we're glad y'all made it today. We got comments from day one and Larry. So Larry, thanks for following us over here to Facebook. We're glad you made it, and we were actually talking about having you on the show here one of these days if you'd like to do that. So
come on down.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're looking for more listeners like Eric and Larry. Very engaging, completely changing the landscape of our show. You type something in and we just go. You know, like I told y'all when we decided to start doing this, whose show is it anyway?
There you go.
Shout out to Drew Carey, right? So just give us ideas, send us messages about what you want to hear us talk about, and we'll just wind it up and go. So again, thanks for coming, Larry. Thumbs up to you, and we will definitely see everybody next week.